Hi class! My name is Miss Ingilio or Ma'am Ingilio, and I will be your teacher in Science, Grade 8 for the school year 2020-2021. Before we start our lesson, don't forget to remind yourself that learning is fun. Let us find out what concepts you are going to learn today. In this lesson, you will learn the concepts used to investigate the relationship between the amount of force applied and the mass of the object to the amount of change in the object's motion. So kung babasahin ninyo, parang napakahirap niyang intindihin. But in this lesson, we are going to identify the relationship between the force, the mass, and the acceleration. So those are the concepts that we should remember. Our first example. Are there forces acting on the book and the table? Yes, there are forces acting on the book and the table. So kahit hindi gumagalaw yung table at yung libro, meron pa ring force or puwersa na nangyayari sa kanilang dalawa. Another example, are there also forces acting on the ball that is rolling in the floor? Yes, there are also forces acting on the ball that is rolling in the floor. So meron ding force na nangyayari sa bola na gumugulong sa sahig at yung sa sahig. Remember, an object may be acted upon by several forces whether object is at rest or in motion. An object may be pushed and pulled in different directions at any time. Another example, we have here a man standing inside the bus, and the bus is moving. Is there a motion? Yes, there is motion. Now, what is motion? Motion is a change in the position of an object over time. So, ang motion ay ang pagbabago ng posisyon ng isang bagay mula sa kanyang pinanggalingan papunta sa kanyang paroroonan. Motion is described in terms of displacement, distance, velocity, acceleration, speed, and time. So these are the terms that are used to describe the motion. What causes an object to move? That is because of a force. Remember, all motion is due to forces acting on objects. So lahat ng motion ng objects ay dahil sa force. What is a force? A simple definition of a force is a push or a pull. So a push or a pull of an object with a specific magnitude and direction. So yun ang definition natin or ang madaling pagkakaintindi natin sa force. Example, yung kamay natin nag-apply ng puwersa sa bola or nag-apply ng force sa ball. Anong mangyayari sa ball? Gumalaw yung bola. So, nagkaroon ng motion kasi nag-apply tayo ng force dun sa bola. So, to summarize, force is a push or a pull, pagtulak at paghila ng isang object. Ang motion naman is a change in the position of an object over time. So, ang motion ay ang pagbabago ng posisyon ng isang object papunta sa kanyang paroroonan. Now, let's proceed with our next topic. So, kung napapansin ninyo, meron tayong picture. Sino kaya yung nasa picture? Siya si Isaac Newton. So, sino nga ba si Isaac Newton? Si Isaac Newton, he developed the theory of gravity, the laws of motion, which became the basis for physics, calculus, and made breakthroughs in the area of optics such as the reflecting telescope. So si Isaac Newton, meron siyang malaking contribution in the world of science. At lahat ng concepts na pinag-aralan niya ay hanggang ngayon ginagamit pa rin natin at pinag-aaralan pa rin natin. Isa sa mga pinakasikat na concepts na napag-aralan niya ay ang gravity, ang laws of motion na ating magiging topic ngayong araw, ang calculus na pinag-aaralan sa math, at ang mga pag-aaral patungkol sa optics, lalo na sa telescope. Isaac Newton developed 3 theories or laws in motion. So, yung laws of motion na pinag-aralan ni Isaac Newton ay nahati niya sa 3. Yun yung law of inertia, which is the first law of motion, the law of acceleration, which is the second law of motion, and the law of action and reaction, which is also known as the law of interaction, which is the third law of motion. So, laws of motion, let's just have a brief introduction first about those 3. So, first law of motion, every body remains in a state of rest or uniform motion unless acted upon by a net external force. In the second law of motion, the amount of acceleration of a body is proportional to the acting force and inversely proportional to the mass of the body. The third law of motion states that for every action, there is an equal but opposite reaction. So, if an object A exerts a force on object B, then object B will exert an equal but opposite force on object A. In our example a while ago, so, yung lalaki na nakatayo sa loob ng bus at yung bus na gumagalaw, the man's body has inertia, and so a force is needed to change its velocity. The man's body moves backward as the bus moves forward. The first law of motion is the law of inertia. The illustration shown before demonstrated the property of an object to resist any change in its state of motion. That is known as inertia. Remember, all objects have inertia. So, lahat ng objects na nakikita natin sa ating paligid ay mayroong inertia. Ngayon, ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng inertia? Inertia is the ability of an object to resist change in motion. So, ang inertia ng bawat bagay ay ang kakayahan na pumigil or pagpigil sa kanyang paggalaw. Inertia means that a body at rest remains at rest. So, we have here an example of a bowling pin. Yung bowling pin, hindi siya gumagalaw or it is at rest. So, meaning to say, it has inertia. Another definition of inertia is that if in motion, it remains in motion at constant velocity unless acted on by a net external force. So, example natin dito yung bola na gumugulong. Yung bola na yan ay may inertia, pero siya ay gumagalaw. So, yung paggalaw niya ay tuloy-tuloy, patuloy ng patuloy, unless merong magpapahinto sa kanya. Ngayon, samahin natin yung object na gumagalaw at yung object na hindi gumagalaw. Anong mangyayari pag tumama yung bola na gumagalaw doon sa bowling pins na hindi gumagalaw? So, tignan nyo yung nasa larawan or yung video. Nung tumama yung bola sa bowling pins, gumalaw yung mga bowling pins. Nung tumama naman yung bola sa mga bowling pins, nag-iba siya ng direction or bumagal siya ng pag-ikot. Kasi nag-apply na tayo ng force dun sa dalawang object. A more massive object which has more inertia is more difficult to move from rest, slow down, speed up, or change its direction. Example natin dyan. Meron tayong dalawang object na nasa video. Una is yung truck, sumunod is yung bike. Which has more inertia? Or ano sa dalawa ang may pinaka malaki or mas malaki ang inertia? Ang sagot ay ang truck. So, the truck has more inertia than the bike because it has more mass. So, mas marami ang inertia ng truck kasi mas marami ang kanyang mass compared sa bike. Meaning to say, inertia is also the same with mass. The bigger the inertia, the bigger the mass. The smaller the inertia, the smaller the mass. Our next law is the law of acceleration. In the law of acceleration, we should first remember the following terms: force, mass, and acceleration. Force means push or pull. Mass means the measure of inertia. It is measured in grams, kilograms, and tons or ounces and pounds. Next is acceleration. Acceleration is a change in velocity over time. So these are the terms that we need to remember in the law of acceleration. So we have here an example. Yung lalaki, nag-apply siya ng force sa bola ng mahina. Nung sumunod, nag-apply siya ng malakas na force dun sa ball. Ano yung nangyari? Nung una siyang nag-apply ng mahinang force doon sa bola, maliit lang or mababa lang yung itinaas ng bola. Nung pangalawang beses na nag-apply siya ng malakas na force dun sa bola, naging mataas yung inilayo nung bola. So, ano ngayon ang ibig sabihin nun? The higher the force, the higher the acceleration. The lower the force, the lower the acceleration. So, kapag mas mataas yung force na in-apply mo, mas magiging mataas yung acceleration. Kapag naman mababa yung force na in-apply mo, magiging mababa din yung acceleration. Meaning to say, force is directly proportional to acceleration. Next example. So we have here two kids. So meron tayong dalawang bata. Nag-apply ng parehong puwersa yung lalaki dun sa batang maliit at sa batang malaki. Ano yung napansin ninyo nung nag-apply ng parehong puwersa yung lalaki dun sa dalawang bata? Ano yung iginalaw or ano yung napansin ninyo sa paggalaw ng swing? Okay, dun sa unang bata na payat at maliit, nung itinulak niya or nag-apply siya ng force, malaki yung iginalaw ng swing. Doon naman sa pangalawang bata, nung nag-apply siya ng kaparehong force doon na in-apply din niya sa unang bata, maliit lang yung iginalaw ng swing. So ano ngayon ang ibig sabihin nun? An object with higher mass has lower acceleration compared to an object with lower mass. Meaning to say, mass is inversely proportional to acceleration. Para mas daling maintindihan, kapag ang force ay mataas, magiging mataas din ang acceleration. Kapag ang force ay mababa, magiging mababa din ang acceleration. Ano naman? Or ibig sabihin, or meaning to say, force is directly proportional to acceleration. Paano naman kapag mass at acceleration? Kapag mataas ang mass, mababa ang acceleration. Kapag naman mababa ang mass, mataas ang acceleration. Meaning to say, mass is inversely proportional to acceleration. Bakit? Kasi kapag mas mabigat ang isang bagay, mas mahirap siyang pagalawin. Kapag magaan ang isang bagay, mas madali siyang pagalawin. Force applied to an object is directly proportional to acceleration, while mass of an object is inversely proportional to acceleration. Let us apply the concepts in a sample problem. Remember the following symbols first. So bago tayo mag-proceed sa problem solving, alamin muna natin or alalahanin muna natin yung mga symbols na kailangan nating tandaan. Kapag kayo ay nakakita ng capital letter F, ibig sabihin, yun ay force. Kapag naman kayo ay nakakita ng small letter m, ibig sabihin, yun ay mass. Kapag naman kayo ay nakakita ng small letter a, ibig sabihin, yun ay acceleration. Sa pag-solve ng problem, meron din tayong mga tinatandaang units. So, ang units, yun yung mga letters na nakalagay sa mga numbers, pagkatapos ng numbers. Ano-ano ba yung mga yon? Sa force, ang units na ginagamit natin ay Newton or capital letter N at kilogram times meter per second squared. Sa mass naman, ang ginagamit natin na units ay kilogram or grams. Sa acceleration naman, ang ginagamit natin na units ay meter per second squared. So halimbawa, pag nakakita kayo ng 10 newtons, 20 newtons, 15 newtons, ibig sabihin, yun ay force. Kapag naman kayo ay nakakita ng 30 kilograms, 30 grams, 40 grams, ibig sabihin, yun ay mass. Kapag naman kayo ay nakakita ng 40 meters per second squared, 25 meters per second squared, 15 meters per second squared, ibig sabihin, yun ay acceleration. The formula for law of acceleration is A is equals to F over m. Or acceleration is equals to net force over mass. Pag nawawala ang acceleration, ang formula na gagamitin natin ay force over mass. Paano naman pag ang nawawala ay mass? Or ang small letter m. Pag nawawala ang mass, ang gagamitin nating formula ay force over acceleration. So meaning to say, mass is equals to force over acceleration. Paano naman pag ang nawawala ay force? Ano ang gagamitin nating formula? Force is equals to ma. Meaning to say, force is equals to mass and acceleration. So, imumultiply lang natin si mass at si acceleration. Sample mathematical problem. So, i-apply na natin siya ngayon sa problem solving. An example problem natin, suppose a grocery cart has a mass of 0.45 kilograms and is pushed with a force of 19 newtons. What will be the acceleration of the grocery cart? Show your answer or show your solution using GRESA method. Ano ba yung GRESA method? So, isa-isahin muna natin yung ibig sabihin ng GRESA. Pag sinabing letter G, yun yung given. Pag sinabing letter R, yun yung required. Pag sinabing letter E, stands for equation. Pag sinabing letter S, it stands for solution. At pag sinabing letter A, it stands for answer. So, i-apply natin siya sa pag-solve ng problem kanina. Babasahin ko ulit. Suppose a grocery cart has a mass of 0.45 kilograms and is pushed with a force of 19 newtons. What will be the acceleration of the grocery cart? So, let's use the GRESA method. Unahin natin yung letter G. Yung letter G stands for given. So, ano ngayon yung given sa problem? Yung given sa problem is yung mass na 0.45 kilograms at force na 90 newtons. Sunod sa GRESA ay yung letter R. Yung required or yung hinahanap. Ano ba yung hinahanap sa problem? According to the problem, yung question niya is, what will be the acceleration of the grocery cart? So, yung hinahanap is yung acceleration. So, ang nawawala is yung letter A or small letter A. Sunod sa GRESA is yung letter E, which stands for equation. So, nalaman na natin kung ano yung required. Ngayon, kailangan nating malaman kung ano yung gagamitin nating formula para ma-solve natin or mahanap natin yung letter A. So, ang equation na gagamitin natin is yung A is equals to F over M, which means acceleration is equals to force over mass. So, magdi-divide ngayon tayo. Sunod sa letter E ay yung letter S, which is solution. So, ang mangyayari lang is i-distribute lang natin yung given dun sa equation. So, A is equals to the force of 19 newtons over the mass of 0.45 kilograms. So, meron na tayong solution. Pwede na tayo mag-divide. At ang magiging answer niyan is 2 meters per second. Bakit meters per second? Kasi ang nawawala ay acceleration. At ang unit na ginagamit natin sa acceleration ay meters per second squared. Okay. Next law or the last law of motion is the law of action and reaction, which is also known as the law of interaction. So, ito na yung pangatlong law of motion ni Isaac Newton. Sa law of action and reaction or law of interaction, remember that to every action, there is always an equal but opposite reaction. Newton's third law of motion tells us 4 characteristics of forces. First is forces always occur in pairs. There is an action and reaction. Action and reaction are equal in magnitude. Action and reaction are opposite in direction. Action and reaction act on different bodies. So, let's take a look at the video. So, yung bola ay tumalbog papunta sa floor. Ang action is yung bola na papunta sa floor. Ang reaction is yung tinulak ng floor yung bola paitaas. Kaya siya tumalbog. So, there is an action and reaction between the ball and the floor. Another example, yung baseball at yung baseball bat. Yung bola ng baseball ay papunta sa baseball bat. Nung tumama na yung bola doon sa bat, itinulak ng bat yung bola kaya siya tumalbog. So, nagkaroon ng action between the ball and the baseball bat. So, yun yung third law of motion ni Isaac Newton. So, to summarize, Newton's laws of motion in physics, in law number 1, or the law of inertia, a body at rest will remain at rest, and a body in motion will remain in motion unless it is acted upon by an external force. In law number 2, or law of acceleration, the force acting on an object is equal to the mass of that object times its acceleration. While the last law of motion in physics, which is the law of action and reaction, or the law of interaction, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, those are the summary of the laws of motion according to Isaac Newton. So, for your assignment, answer the learning task in your module assigned to your classwork for week number 1. So, yung learning task ninyo is i-upload ko sa Google Classroom sa classwork at sasagutan ninyo ngayong araw. Okay, if you have any questions, pwede nyo akong i-PM sa Facebook para masagot ko yung mga questions ninyo. So, that's it for today. I hope you learned something from my video and have a great day. So, goodbye!